Well, hello, writers. Welcome to episode number 530 of Ink in Your Veins. I'm Rachael Herron. I'm so thrilled you're here with me today as I am talking to my friend Lorena Hughes, and she's so gorgeous, so wonderful to talk to. I can't wait for you to hear this inspiring interview on how to use images to prompt your writing and many, many other things. So stick around for that. You will love it. What has been going on around here? Well, in the biggest exciting news, I turned in my US taxes on time before the October 15th deadline. I actually had sent in for an extension till December 15th just in case anything came up, and something did come up. I turned them in. They were immediately rejected by the IRS because I hadn't claimed the money I had made from the subsidy I got on the Affordable Healthcare Act, otherwise known as Obamacare. I only had a minor panic attack. I've never had Obamacare. I believe in it. Never had it. Haven't needed Medicare or I haven't needed insurance for 4 years since moving to New Zealand. Although I will admit to you that I do have insurance in New Zealand because you don't need insurance here. Your healthcare is paid for. But my body is complicated and I'd like a little bit more healthcare, please, if I need it. So I do pay extra for some extra healthcare, but it is optional. It is my decision. And them telling me that I had to file more paperwork about the money I had received that I had not received freaked me out. I did send in a proclamation saying I don't have ACA, and they accepted it and it went through. And this was the easiest time I've had in 4 years of living here doing the US taxes. And it is because I basically now trained myself on how to know how to do it. And I cannot stress to you how hard it is. I know I've talked to you about this before. It is brain meltingly difficult. And I have people to help me on both sides with the New Zealand taxes and the US taxes. Uh, but but now I mostly do everything myself and I understand it. And I wrote myself I may have said this last week. I wrote myself operating instructions for next year, detailed. So the things I hope I remember, I don't have to hope I remember. They're there, and they're in a file inside the 2025 taxes that says, Rachel, for the love of God, open this, read me now. And then at the end, it does say, you are a sparkly MFN unicorn for doing this. And I will be pleased to see that note to myself next year. I love sending myself notes. I use Boomerang or whatever service I'm happening to be using in email, oftentimes to send myself notes, to remember to do things, to all sorts of things. I will send myself notes, but I will sometimes send myself love notes. Those are fantastic to have. And my very favorite note I ever sent myself still makes me laugh. It was in a, I got out one of my favorite pieces of luggage, and I feel very strongly about luggage. I have very strong opinions. And this was a soft-sided travel backpack that was a clamshell suitcase, but soft. It's Rick Steves, love the man, recommended it. I loved this bag. And I was packing it one time, and in the front, I felt something in the front little pocket. I felt something, and I opened it up, and there was a note. And it said, this was in the left front pocket, and it said, Dear Rachel, don't put anything into the front right pocket until you clean out the freaking Cadbury cream egg that melted in here. And sure enough, there was an old melted Cadbury cream egg in there that I had not cleaned out. And by then, it had been so long, it was easy. It was just to chip it out rather than rather than scraping it out. And then I cleaned it. But yes, those are the kind of notes I leave myself all over the place. So I left myself a tax note. What else is going on? Well, my agent has taken out Fixation, which is what the fix is now called, Fixation, which is my recovery memoir. It's gone to 12 editors, and we're just giving it a shot. If it doesn't sell, I will happily self-publish. That was the direction I was going anyway. And much like Seven Miracles, I just decided to ask her if she um, would look at it again. I can't remember if I have told you this story, and I'm just going to tell you again. Okay, I went back and looked at last week's episode, and I didn't say it then. And if I've said it before, I apologize. But I will tell you that I finished the final edit of Fixation, as per what my agent had thought would be a good idea, her revision ideas. This was last year. I sent it to her and she didn't like it. She didn't not like it. She just didn't love it. She didn't really feel like taking it out. And so I said, great, I wrote this to self-publish it anyway. I will self-publish it. Were my feelings a tiny bit hurt? Yes. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. Not a lot hurt because I'm pretty resilient, but a little bit hurt. And then, I don't know, a month ago, 3 weeks, yeah, maybe a month ago, I reached out to her again because I've just got so much to do and I just keep putting off publishing the fix. It is it's done. It's ready to go. It's copy edited. All I need to do is do the audiobook and then I could put it out. But I haven't found the time to do that. So I asked my agent again. I said, would you mind sending some letters to editors just to see if anybody does want to buy this? And if people don't want, if an editor at a publishing house doesn't want to buy this, then yay, I tried, and now I will self-publish, and that's fantastic. Both options are great. I'm just being a tiny bit lazy with this. And she said, of course. And then I said, you don't have to read it again. Um, I'll I'll help you with the editor submission letter because she's got to write a query letter to editors. And she's like, no, don't be ridiculous. I will read the book. If I'm taking it out, I want to read the most current version, which is the same version she read, but it was last year. And my friends, she loved it. She loved it. It hasn't changed. And and I mentioned that to her. I said, the book hasn't changed. And she said, oh yeah, I know, I'm not surprised by that. I'm just in a better mood now. I wasn't in the mood for it last time I read it. I love this. I love that she told me that. It goes to show that in publishing, it is not about whether your book is good or not. If your book is terrible, it is about that. But there are so many good books that go out to agents. There are so many good books that agents take out to editors, and there are books that just don't sell. It is not about us. It's not about the quality. It is about the mood the person was in when they read it. It is about the quality of the night's sleep that they had before they read. It is about a million things that we cannot understand. And I just wanted to point that out. I feel like it was such a freeing thing to hear from her and quite delightful. So she's taking it out this week. It's gone out to 12 editors. I think it went out yeah, day before yesterday or yesterday. And we've already got two rejections. And these are people that she had primed. So what my agent does, I'm not sure if this is what all agents do, but I bet there's something like it. She sends out queries to editors out there, just very short queries, like a little, I've got this kind of book. Do you want to see it? And if they write back, yeah, sure, send it over. Then she'll send the full package with the book and her query letter, which has it all outlined and what the comps are, all of that. And so two rejections have come back just today, and I love that. I also love that. I'm always talking to friends and other writers and students about the fact that we celebrate our rejections. Both rejections were lovely. And even if they weren't lovely, even if they said, Rachael Herron sucks, we can't stand her, and why would you even send this to us? Why would you send this nonsense over? It's still worthy of celebration. Any rejection that we get means that you're working, whether that is a rejection from an agent or an editor, or whether that is a bad review on a book that you get that somebody didn't like. It's proof that you are working, and it is worthy of not like mouth service celebration, like, okay, I'm celebrating, whatever, Rachael. No, how are you going to celebrate? How are you going to celebrate? Tonight, I am going to a jazz show that was already planned, but I am going to treat it as the celebration that it is. I'm going to have ice cream at the break. We're seeing Samara Joy, and that's really exciting. I'm going to do something that says, I am celebrating these two rejections. I am a working writer, and rejections are a huge part of writing. So I just wanted to share that with you. Even a rejection from your own agent, who then later loves the same book. It's all, I'm just feeling quite a bit of delight around all of this. All right. Also, speaking of delight, let me tell you about Lorena. Lorena Hughes is the award-winning author of The Night We Became Strangers, The Queen of the Valley, The Spanish Daughter, and The Sisters of Alameda Street. Born and raised in Ecuador, she moved to the United States when she was 18 to study fine arts and mass communication and journalism. Her novels have earned acclaim from outlets such as The Washington Post, Publishers Weekly, BuzzFeed, Pop Sugar, and Bustle. The Spanish Daughter is an Amazon editor's pick, an Amazon Unforgettable Reads book club selection, and one of Reading Group's Choice's most popular books of 2022. Her latest novel is The Night We Became Strangers. Oh, and this story, y'all, is so delicious. When not writing, she draws inspiration from her work as a family photographer. Let's jump into the interview. Please get some of your own work done. Remember to believe in yourself. I believe in you, she said, Mr. Rogers style, but I really, really do. Keep writing. Here we go with the interview. Enjoy. Well, I could not be more pleased to welcome to the show today a dear old friend of mine. Would you please share your name and pronouns with us?
Hi, my name is Lorena Hughes, and pronouns are she, her.
Welcome to the show. We were trying to figure out when was the last time we actually communicated, and it has been a while, probably since before COVID. But you and I, did we start publishing around the same time? When did your first book come out?
No, I think you were before me. 2017
Oh
was my
God.
first one.
Oh my gosh. I'm in my head. You like we were back in 2010 together. But
That has been like a decade.
that's amazing.
I'm newer than you.
You're newer, fresher, with a beautiful book that is coming out that I was lucky enough to be reached out by your publicist, and I was like, no, she's a friend of mine. Yes, I will do that, and also let's get her on the show. So we're going to talk about your book, but first of all, I want to talk about
Mm.
your writing process, because you have been published over and over and over again since you first came out. You're becoming prolific. How and where and how does it all happen? How do you get the writing done?
All righty. So I try to write every day
Hmm.
in the mornings because like if I start after 3, I'll fall asleep immediately.
Me too.
So it has to be done in the mornings. I'm not very fast, or I'm not a fast writer, but I'm consistent. So I think that eventually I'll finish the novel.
Yeah.
I don't write anywhere very exotic, just my office. But if I feel like I need a change of scenery, then I'll head up to a coffee shop or something like that. Yeah.
Are you usually going for a certain number of words?
No, sometimes when I'm being too slow, then I'll use some of those programs where you can get, and then I try to do a certain amount of word count. I haven't lately, but maybe I should because I'm kind of running a little behind. But yeah, it varies. Sometimes, some days it's just a few hours. Other days I'm like all day doing it. So it really depends on kind of how life is going for me.
Hmm. And when you say every day, do you mean like every day or do you like every weekday?
No, I try to write on weekends too, but it really depends. It really depends. Like I just got back from Ecuador last Sunday.
Oh,
Yeah. And so it was a little bit crazy there because I had family coming. I mean, I tried to do some writing, but I was visiting and I was going places, but I was trying to get in some writing in the mornings and sometimes in the afternoons if I had to. But
you're so diligent. When I travel, when I see friends or family, or just when I travel, I always have such a hard time writing.
it was hard. It was hard, but I also knew that I have a deadline, a book that has to be ready in March, and I
Yeah.
know that I need the time.
A
So
dead a deadline is the best thing for I'm not going to say all writers, but for many, many writers, deadlines are how we get there. I just realized I was talking to somebody just before this about this that I've been thinking about this book that I'm going to write. I just realized I've been thinking about it for a year because I haven't set myself a deadline. As soon as I set myself a deadline, I'll just write it. But I haven't done that. I've just been like, oh, I'll just play around with it for a while. I'm in no hurry.
no.
Now I'm in a hurry, now that I have realized that. All right, what is the most exciting thing that you've ever realized about your writing process?
Um, I think the most exciting thing has been that I don't have to figure out everything before I start writing a scene.
Yeah.
In fact, I've been gladly surprised to see when the solution comes direct to me directly from the characters rather than me trying to force a situation. So,
Mm.
because I used to think that I had to have everything figured out before I sit down and write, and it's
Mhm.
turned out to be like a nice surprise that I didn't have to.
I love that you say that. The answer is coming from the characters themselves. So, would you call yourself more of a plotter or a pantser or somewhere in between?
No, I definitely have. I'm a plotter because I write mysteries, so I need to know what's happening before I go on tangents.
Yeah.
But I do, I have an outline, but I allow myself certain freedom when I'm writing, when I'm there to let it go somewhere else if needed, and then I'll figure it out because I think that there's a certain magic that happens on during the writing process that um I don't want to be too rigid and be like, no, but this is not on the deadline
Mhm.
on my outline. So I need to let myself be a little bit less rigid and it has worked out fine for me.
Have you always been like that, or is this something you learned to be like?
I kind of learned it along the way because I try to be very, but I had thought this was going to be this way and it has to be that way. And then my critique partners would be like, no, it's not working out. So now I'm a lot more fluid. I let myself be more like, well, maybe it'll go in a different direction than I thought.
Tell me about your critique partners. Who do you work with? How do you work with them? Because here's the thing, I hear from a lot of students who want critique partners, and then sometimes critique partners will actually slow a system down. But you're an established writer working with critique partners. How do you use them appropriately and well?
Well, it has definitely changed.
Hmm.
At the very beginning, I had a lot. I had like at one point, I had like three critique groups at once, and
Groups, not wow.
well,
Yeah.
I had like yeah, I think I had like at some point a group of three and then another group of three, but that was at the very beginning,
Mhm.
and I realized that I was getting contradictory advice, so it was not
Yeah.
helpful. One critique group wanted one thing, and the other one wanted a different thing. So it started narrowing down
Yes.
until it became, and it was also, it took a long time. Like you've probably been in groups like that they just read like three chapters a month or something. And so I
If that.
needed, yeah. So I'm no longer in a critique group like that anymore. Like I work with another writer that I met in 2017 when I met you. And she's wonderful, and she reads the entire book, and I read her entire book, and we share advice, and
How,
I do that with a couple of writers.
how early do you share the book?
What's that?
How early do you share the book? Is it
So
like,
I share it when it's now I share when it's completely done,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
my opinion,
That's okay.
but it's not.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear because I think that sharing first drafts are too fragile. They're
They
too they're
are.
too early. But if you would have said it, I would have said, okay, you found your right person or people to do that with. But I would never want to share my first draft. It's like so ugly. It's not even
Well,
readable in some
when
places.
the last couple of books, like the one that you read the night we became strangers and The Queen of the Valley, were kind of first draft because they were under contract. So I didn't have a lot of time to polish them super, super well.
Yeah.
But they were not awful either. I mean, there was,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that it takes less effort and less time as we go along.
I
But
believe it does as well. I would like to tell myself that. And that has been that has been true for me. That's great. That's a great use of critique groups is um being in them and then I always talk about like stealing the people you love the most. Just, whatever about the critique groups, but I'm going to work with for years. We're going to have because you need to find your people, right? To find the right people. That's awesome. What part of writing do you struggle with the most?
So for talking about trips, when I lose momentum, either because of a trip or other of life it's hard to return to the text for me and fully concentrate or get immersed in my story again. Um, I also struggle finishing projects quickly, as I mentioned. I like to be faster, but I think that research um, slows me down a lot. And I can't be like, you know how some writers just put a little bookmark and say, come back and research fashion or come back and research the setting.
Yeah.
I can't do that because I have to know where they are in order to develop the scene. So, like, I needed to know what kind of transportation they're taking, or if not, I can't do it anymore.
Mhm. And your
So
books are so and your books are so rich in that. The scene and the setting are so married that I can understand how that would be tricky. So then
yeah.
how do you handle that distraction when you need to go research at something and then get back into it? How do you have tips or tricks on doing that?
Well, I just well, one of the tricks I was actually going to mention is that I have all these photographs and Pinterest board, and so I'll go there and I'll just start describing it so that I can get in the flow again, even if I'm not going to use all the description or thing in
That's a
there.
great idea.
Yeah, I just start like I force myself to sit there and start writing after I don't want to do it, but if I'm kind of stuck, then I'll just see, okay, let's see where this is taking place, and then I'll just start describing it, and then it starts flowing.
So you're looking at the image on the Pinterest board and then describing that and then seeing what
Or
happens.
my Yeah, or my photographs that I take.
Yeah, or your photographs. Okay.
Yeah,
So how do you collect? So do you collect all these images into the one place on Pinterest or somewhere else or?
I do some, well, the ones that are not mine go on Pinterest. The ones that I take are on my photo folders, and
Mm,
so because I go to a lot of the places where that I describe in my books, and so I take pictures, a lot of pictures. And then when I'm feeling a little bit stuck, I just go there and
You're
look at them.
you're honestly like blowing my mind because I don't have I don't have a good visual brain. I don't see very many images in my head, so it's always very hard for me to describe setting. But I normally go to the places where I research and I've never even thought about just taking my own pictures and then describing them.
Really?
No, it hasn't even
Well,
crossed my mind. That's so it seems so that would seem like so helpful.
it's super helpful because I'm not in Ecuador right now, so I can't just
Right.
look. Um, it's specifically, I think it's very important for historical fiction. I think that if I was writing contemporary, I wouldn't need that so
I'm
much.
I'm going into historical fiction, which is what I'm thinking about this for. That's
Oh,
the book that I'm
yes.
writing now is and
Yeah. I don't do that with people though. Like I don't necessarily start imagining a person or anything like that. It's more the setting to me is what gives me where to like the playground for the characters. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
And your books are so rich in that. All right, so that was one of the craft tips was using the Pinterest board and images. Do you have another one perhaps? Or it's okay.
Well, I was gonna tell people that if you wrote as a teenager, save your notebooks because they may come in handy one day when you ran out of ideas. And it's kind of funny because I have a box full of notebooks that I used to write when I was a teenager, and I wrote freely and without any concerns. I read nothing. So that there's a ton of ideas. There's like a library of ideas. In fact, so in that book, The Night We Became
Huh?
Strangers, there's a section there uh, that is like backstory for some of the
Yeah.
characters. So that was 1990 uh,
No
in here
way.
that
I
I came back to and used.
Oh my God. And there's post-its marking what you have found, which is interesting.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, because I had read a story about a couple of friends, it was contemporary back then. But I was like, oh, maybe I'll use this as my backstory.
And that was literally your teenage self giving your future self a present.
Yes, yes. And I told my agent that too, and she said, yeah, just ask young Lorena, when you get stuck.
I think that is beautiful. And young Lorena will like say, "Okay, I'm here. I'm ready to answer questions because I've got the imagination and the and even more than the imagination, like you said, the
The
daring,
freedom.
the freedom."
Yeah, because
Yeah.
and even though there was a lot of bad stuff in there, there's a few gems that I could find, because right now the way I write is very different than I did back then because right now it's with a purpose, right? It's
Right.
like, well, is this going to help my story move forward? Why do I need this scene? That
Mhm.
sort of thing. And is this character development? What is this doing? I question everything, which is why I think I write slow now. Because before I could just write the story in a couple of days, right? But
Because
not.
you were just following your passion at that point. You weren't
Yeah, I mean, it
realizing it.
wasn't polished. I didn't have great style or anything, but I had the idea there. So that's what I would recommend if anybody did that or have diaries or journals or things they wrote when they were young, like go and look at them because there's a lot of stuff in there that I've used in the present.
I think
Yeah.
that is absolutely beautiful. And in my 500 plus episodes, nobody has ever shared that one. And now I'm wondering what is in my old journals because I have all of them. Although my old journals are just like my now journals. It's just like planning out like what I'm going to do tomorrow. There's
But
such,
you know what though? Like there's an innocence there that you don't have now. Like,
yeah.
and I have found that in my older, I was like, oh, I used to be really sweet and innocent.
And innocent and naive and all of those beautiful things. And then I don't know if you, and now we're going off track, but I don't know if you ever find this, but I've found places where I wish in my old journals, like young journals, for exactly what I have now. You know, I want to be a writer and I want to go swimming in
Yeah,
the ocean and I want to, just yeah.
that's
Oh,
sweet. Yeah.
and then yeah, then I have friends who have burned theirs and I'm always like, oh, breaks my
No,
heart.
I
Oh,
haven't thrown anything. I'm like really bad at throwing old stuff, but
me too. Well, and it's useful for you. So, all right, will you share the kindest thing that you've ever done for yourself as a writer?
so when I travel, I always find a time to visit mansions and historic homes that have been
Mhm.
turned into museums. And like I said, it like take a lot of pictures.
Mhm.
And I just love to see how people used to live and imagine, their lives there. And it becomes part of my visual historical library, right? So I've gone like I can give you some examples. Like when I was in Atlanta, I went to Margaret Mitchell's house, which is
Mm.
small actually. It's very
Is it?
small.
Huh.
Yeah, and she has the typewriter there where she wrote Gone with the Wind. And yeah, it's really cool. And they tell you all her life. And you know that her life is a little bit like Scarlet, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of things. I went in Denver, I went to see Margaret Brown's house, the Molly Brown,
Yeah.
the lady that was in the
The
Titanic.
unsinkable Molly Brown. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, actually her name was Margaret, and nobody called her Molly until after she passed away. That was just for that Broadway play. Her nickname was Maggie.
I guess the unsinkable Molly Brown does sound a little bit better, but not that much better. That's so interesting. Who knew?
Yeah, so you find all these little bits of information about them. So I have to do that because it's very inspirational for me.
Hmm.
So,
Do you have a
in San Diego, oh, you who used to live in California, did you ever go to? They have in San Diego, they have haciendas that are like, um, so Helen Hunt Jackson, she wrote Ramona.
hmm
So one of the things is that book became super popular in the 19th century, and they didn't throw her. They kept an hacienda so that people would go look. It wasn't even hers, but it was like, oh, this is kind of like her hacienda, so let's keep it as a tourist attraction. And people
Wow.
started going there, and then they have her chair in there, and early copies of her novel, and so it's really neat.
Oh, I
I just
love
love
doing
to
that.
do
And then you
that.
take the pictures of it and then you can describe them and then you can put yourself there. Do you have a clever way of organizing all these pictures? Or do you just like go through
I
and
go
look
by
for
date
pictures?
and
Yeah,
city.
yeah. Okay.
So I'll say, for example, I don't know, when I went to Atlanta, let's say it was 2016,
You just scroll
uh,
back to that.
2016 Atlanta.
Yeah. Oh,
That would be
that's
the name of the file. And then so I'll go and look at it. And yeah,
now I'm like planning out the trips to historical houses because we have
they
them
have
here.
them
It's
everywhere.
Catherine Mansfield's houses here in town, and actually she occurs in the book that I'm writing, and I've hung out there. I actually applied for a residency there so I could even write in her house, but I didn't get the residency. But I can apply
Whose
again
house?
someday. What's that?
Whose house?
Catherine Mansfield. So
Oh.
she's kind of a modernist who really, she was with the Bloomsbury set and Virginia Woolf, that kind those kind of people. So yes, I love that. Oh, such good ideas. Can you please tell us a moment that you knew you had ink in your veins?
Ink in my veins. Um, Okay, so I was talking about being a teenager, right? And writing. I always had good ideas, but I didn't know how to write them, right? So when I realized no one was going to write the stories for me, I forced myself to, put words on paper. And after writing and rewriting my first novel several times, I finally read it from start to finish. And to my surprise, I realized it wasn't that bad. So I was,
Mm.
oh, maybe I could be published. So, that was kind of a moment of realization for me because it wasn't, oh, this is actually not that bad.
Hmm.
So after so that was so with the two last novels that were under contract, just the fact that I finished them and actually liked the product made me feel like this was what I was born to do, right?
Oh, that is beautiful. You I kind of I really love this idea that you realized no one else was going to write the books for you, and they have shown that psychologically when we procrastinate anything, like if I procrastinate going to the grocery store, I am not procrastinate. My brain doesn't think I'm leaving it for me to do. My brain thinks I'm leaving it for a stranger to do. That's why procrastination is kind of easy. We always think a stranger is, our brain thinks a stranger is going to do the thing we're putting off. And so when you realized no one was going to do it, you stopped procrastinating and you did it yourself.
Yeah, I used to think someone should write a story about this. I'm just going to write the idea and give it to someone. On
And
TV,
then,
they should make this movie. Like I used to think that way. And that's
uh,
how I started.
and then you did it yourself. That is
Yeah,
really,
I was like, okay, the hell with it. I'm just going to write it myself.
that is really beautiful. And that is a moment that you have the ink in your veins, running through your veins. I love that. Will you tell us about the best book that you have read recently and why did you love it?
Oh, what I've read recently?
Hmm.
So my guilty pleasure is domestic thrillers because
Me too.
I
I love
never write
them.
that dark.
Hmm.
So recently I discovered an author, Dandy Smith,
Dandy
and
Smith?
yes, Dandy Smith. And I just devoured two of her novels. One is called The Wedding Vow, and the other one's called what is it called? The Wrong Daughter.
Ooh.
And they were, I thought I knew the genre real well, and I was like, "Ugh, I know what's gonna happen." Like I had all these guesses, but I was actually super surprised with both of these because
That is
she,
so hard to
yeah,
do. I have written now two domestic thrillers and I don't want to do it again. It's so hard.
yeah, I don't want to write it either because it's dark,
It
It's
is, yeah, that was the other part was that was hard for me. But to be surprised, I am immediately going to put these on my TBR
I
pile because it
was
is hard to
very
be surprised.
surprised with both of them. I thought I knew where she was going with them. And then yeah, she turns everything around and you're like,
Oh,
what the like I was exhausted.
in the best way,
But
right?
I read them like in 3 days. Like it was
Oh,
they're good. They're interesting.
thank you.
And interestingly, I think she's now with my publisher, because I think she's British and now I think she's they're publishing in the US.
Who is your
But
publisher again? Are you?
Kensington?
Okay, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
I thought that was kind of neat. But as far as nonfiction, I just read again the Four Agreements because I need constant reminders of what I'm doing wrong. So have you read
No,
the
I
Four
have
Agreements?
never read it. This Don Miguel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ruiz?
Reese. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I haven't. I don't know how it has slipped past me. What do you love about the book?
Well, it's not that I love it, but it kind of makes you realize a lot of things, like the importance of words. Words have
Mm,
a lot of words can break you or make you basically, and not just you but others. And so he talks a long time about that and how it's important to be impeccable with your words
mm-hmm.
because, like for example, he gives examples. Like for example, if a little girl that was singing and her mom was really annoyed because she was stressed out and she told her, "Stop singing, you have a horrible voice." Well, that girl never sang again in her life. She always thought she had a horrible voice.
Hmm.
And it's like things that affect you, since words can affect you like that, deep, even since you're very little. And he also talks about gossip and
Mm.
just the power of words, that's just one of the agreements. Like there's four. And so
Oh, I'm gonna have to.
it's just it leaves you it gives you a lot to think about.
I will pick it up. I've heard about it for so long. Yeah, and I mean, I'm always seeing writing students who were told by one second grade teacher, "Oh, you're not a good writer," or they got a C on it or whatever,
Yep.
and then they haven't
Yep.
written again
Yep.
until they're,
Especially if the people who told you things are people that you respected when you were little or
of
that you
course.
but a lot of the things that they tell you then gets stuck with you and
Forever. And I
yeah.
think a lot of writers are writers because someone they respected, a teacher they respected, told them that they were good at writing. That stuck with them too. And that's just so powerful. That,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm. Speaking of powerful words, can you please tell us about The Night We Became Strangers? Because I really loved this book. And this was one of those books where you can you dive into it and you forget the world around you. That's what I really love
Oh.
about your writing is that I was so engrossed in it. And it's so layered and so detailed. Tell us a little bit about it. What's the log line and yeah, what's it about?
Okay, so well, first of all, it comes out next week, which I'm
And by the time the
excited
show
about.
airs, it will be out and available everywhere, we should say.
Yay! So basically, it's The Night We Became Stranger is based on a real incident that happened in my country in 1949. That year, an Ecuadorian radio station aired its own adaptation of The War of the Worlds with tragic consequences.
Yes.
And 8 years later, the daughter of the radio station's owner returns to uncover how that night destroyed two families, ended a friendship, and shattered her first love.
Oh, you told that really, really well. But this idea of the War of the Worlds, shattering people in different ways all over the world, in different places, like in different languages, I had no idea that that
I
was a
know it's
thing that had
crazy.
happened.
It's crazy. So Orson Welles did it first
Hmm.
in New York and New Jersey, and they did it in Chile a few years later, but there was like almost no casualties, just a man who had a heart attack. One of the actors from there took the script to Ecuador. This is real life. And he offered it to the radio station there, and they're like, "Well, we're kind of low on ratings. Sure, let's do it."
We'll say that we have been invaded by aliens and
Well, the idea was that the problem was that they didn't read it as the novel. They gave it into a radio drama format. So they were saying stuff like, and then they did it. They use this real life cities to say, oh yeah, they're now in such and such city and they're coming close. And here is the governor or the I don't know, like in different countries they say different things, but like in Ecuador they might say, here's the Minister of Defense, like the Secretary of Defense is what it translates here. Um, and then he'll say like, everybody please go to the high mountain, like, and they would have
of course
pictures
people would
that,
believe. Of course they would believe. They don't have any precedent
yeah.
to know this is not true. So you came up with this concept for this novel. Were you so excited when the concept presented itself to you? Because it is such a high concept. It is so cool.
Well, I was excited because I had always heard about I mean, I don't know if I should say spoilers, but I had always heard about the aftermath because people got really mad when they
Yeah.
found out that this was a radio drama and not real life. So they went and
So this,
attacked.
yeah. So
Yeah.
this wasn't something that was buried in history that you uncovered. This is actually history that you knew.
Yeah, everybody kind of knows there that because of the
Interesting.
consequences. Yeah, I mean, you kind of have heard about it, but you don't know the details, right?
Yeah.
So I read everything there that I could get my hands on because I was like, how is this even possible that someone did this? And I read it. In fact, interestingly, the artistic director that did this, who is actually a character who, well, I won't say anything. The artistic director wrote a novelized version of what happened to them. like 50 years later, and or maybe less, maybe 30 years later,
Mhm.
he wrote an account. And so I have it. I have that novel and I read it and I was like, but wait,
Useful.
tell me what is true and what is not, because he novelized it. So
Right.
so I
You
was
had to
kind of
guess.
fascinated. But I have other books that talk about, I mean, there's a lot, like if people look it up after they read the book, they're gonna find a lot of information about it. And that was kind of hard to sift through because a lot of things there's articles that say, oh, this number of people died, and other articles that say, no, this number. So
Mm.
I had to kind of fictionalize a lot of things. Obviously, the people are all fictionalized because I don't want to be sued by the family.
But to
And
put them together in these precarious groupings, I just think you did such a beautiful job. Just a gorgeous.
thank
I really
you.
loved this book, and I was so happy to get a chance to read it. So that will be available everywhere right now as this show comes out, The Night We Became Strangers. Where can we find you out there?
So you can find me on my website, which is lorena-hughes.com. And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. And for both of those, it's Lorena Hughes author.
Perfect. It has been a joy to reconnect with you and to
Thank
talk
you
about
so
this gorgeous book.
much.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.